Welcome, everyone. Welcome everyone to this Sabbath day, to this day of rest where we all are working on rebuilding and cleaning up. Some of us are feeling grateful that our stuff is dry. Some of us are feeling grateful that we are whole. Some of us are feeling grateful that we are whole but have anxieties because our stuff is still wet. Some of our anxieties have turned to the realities of cleaning up after a massive storm. Some of us have anxieties about storms to come. This storm has brought up a lot of stuff. For me, it's brought up a lot of stuff about stuff. I started to write this sermon. This has been sort of in my queue of sermons that I'm going to write. Not this one, but this one. I started to write the sermon last year after my father died, when we were in the midst of sorting and dividing his stuff, now our stuff, bits and pieces, valued and worn. And I thought about what we give value to and how we create value, even as I watched family relationships erode. I started writing this sermon 2 months ago as I was taking apart my bedroom and my bathroom because there was a leak underneath the toilet and the mold was growing up on the inside of the wall, so we had to do flood and mold abatement. As I emptied the closets that were filled with old stuff from former lives that really had no use or value in my current one. And then I went to a retreat in New York City to visit a friend from there in New Jersey, and I was thinking of the George Carlin routine of stuff. How many of you know that? Yeah. And so my son said, oh, we should watch it again. We watched it again, and this quote came out. A house is just a pile of stuff with a cover on it. It's just a box with a cover. You can see that when you're taking off in an airplane. So, what's a home, really? I started writing the sermon again last month in Maine as I was closing down the last of the big family houses, my aunt having been moved into a residential care facility after breaking her hip and her memory. 3 stories of storied stuff. Old stuff, new stuff, and stacks and stacks and stacks of magazines of dream houses, even though she lived in one. And lots of unfinished art. And I thought about how we assign value to the works that we do, how we fill our lives. And as I'm sorting, I have a radio. I had no cell service, very no internet. But I had a radio, and across this radio, I start hearing about neo-Nazis and white supremacists marching in the streets in Charlottesville and death. And I think about what gives life meaning. And then I returned from Houston just in time for Harvey to hit Houston. I returned from Maine just in time for Harvey to hit Houston. And I have cousins that live there, dear cousins, with 2 beautiful boys. And I thought, oh my God, are they going to be okay? Are they okay? Are they going to have enough stuffs to survive? Did their stuff make it out okay? They're okay. Houston is not, but they're okay. And then Irma came to call. And I, like many, evacuated with 4 cats, 2 dogs, 1 husband, 1 son, to a house that had 2 dogs, 3 cats, and a bearded lizard. And I am so blessed to be able to evacuate 2 good friends in a safe home. But then, what stuff did I take? What stuff do you take? I mean, what will you need? What are you prepared to lose? And so I started to write this sermon as I was evacuated from most of my stuff. And so the question as I'm writing it, not being able to come back, not knowing what was going on in my home, turned into, what am I prepared to see destroyed? And many people are living with the reality. What are you prepared to see destroyed? Some of you are living with that right now. What do people gather when they first go in? Pictures. They look for pictures of the people that they loved. Ironically, the title has held for every single scenario. Stuff. You can't take it with you. The week before the hurricane hit, everybody's out preparing, right? What are we doing? Gathering more stuff, right? You couldn't get any peanut butter. You couldn't find any bread because we survive on peanut butter and bread. Since when? Everybody is hoarding water in water bottles that are decimating our environment because how many bottles of water do you actually drink every single day? You should, not out of a plastic bottle, but no, most people drink soda, which may be also part of the problem of stuff. So as we're sorting out our stuff and securing the lightweight stuff and raising up the stuff so if it gets wet, it won't get too wet. And then, of course, what stuff are we going to take with us if we have to evacuate stuff, which we did? And so do I bring my ancestors' ashes, the carved wooden boxes that hold the cremains of my canine partners? Do I dig up a slip of the Cherokee rose? The bone ash is a good need for fertilizer. I could bring that kind of... Also, it's an essential ingredient in glazes and my mother's pottery. Do I bring her mugs? Do I bring the beautiful vase, the perfect vase? And my mind starts to spin in between coffee mugs, ashes, and radar reports. And I need to stop, and I need to sit, and I need to meditate, and I need to pray, and I say, oh, no, I don't have time. Me? What? Not have time to meditate and pray? Don't be silly. I run around preaching. Your prayer is your walk. Meditate on every breath. Every step a prayer. I put the ashes and the coffee mugs in a chest, in the highest space, in the safest room, and all will be okay, even if it floats away. And it was. There's an Annie Dillard story whose title escapes me, and maybe someone was going to remind you. There's a woman traveling across the country in a covered wagon, and so space is a premium, as is weight, but she cannot bear to leave her beloved pine trees of her Northeast. So she takes and sacrifices space and resources to carry a pine sapling with her all across the country. But when she arrives on the other side, she finds the tallest and biggest and most magnificent evergreens she has ever seen. It also reminds me of the Spanish settler women. I heard the story in St. Augustine. They came over on the boats with their roses, using their own urine as water on board was too precious. It seems that we might be carrying more that is considered practical, more that's considered useful, and really sorting out what that is, because we carry with us the props of our stories. Some of those roses were originally from China. They're now called the wild Cherokee rose, the rose I almost evacuated with. The legends tell us that during the Trail of Tears march, when the Cherokee were forced off their lands, their mothers cried and tears fell. And everywhere a tear fell, a rose bloomed white for their tears, with golden centers for the gold that was being taken out of the lands by the white man who did not understand that it was the land that was gold. This China rose does indeed now grow along the entire Trail of Tears, from Florida through Georgia, the Carolinas, all the way out to Oklahoma. So who's to say? Maybe it's time that we start listening to these metaphors. Before the hurricane hit, my social media was awash with Armageddon. Anybody see these? Yeah. Apocalypse, wow. Yeah. And of course, quotes from the book of Revelations, I'm a minister. Right? So floods around the world, fires blazing, earth quaking and opening up. Speaking of streets paved with gold and waters of life. Revelations 21:11, quote, "It shone with the glory of God, and its brilliance was like that of a very precious jewel, like jasper, clear as crystal. And that verse goes on until the great street of the city was of gold, as pure as transparent glass. Like and as, yes, it is sacred metaphor, not literal messaging. Simile, God loves you. You are light. Armageddon and apocalypse, however, are not the same. They get misused and confused all the time. The word apocalypse comes from the Greek word apocalypsis. Really, they're almost spelled exactly the same. Apocalypse, apocalypsis, which literally means to uncover, to reveal, to disclose sacred or secret information. A leader in biblical publishing says it means, quote, a vision of heavenly secrets that can make sense of earthly realities. A vision of heavenly secrets that can make sense of earthly realities. Apocalypse, what has been revealed. Armageddon as a word is more complicated. It only appears once in the Bible. It means a strong mountain, but its context means the last battle. And Irma is surely not the last battle of her kind. And we don't even have names for earthquakes. So what was revealed? What sacred information are we to glean from this current wreckage? Irma hit us up here on 9/11. I was in New York on the original 9/11. And although President Bush didn't actually tell us to go shopping after 9/11-2001, he did suggest that the terrorists wanted us to be too scared to conduct business and too scared to go out and shop. So, kinda, go out and shop. For many of us hunter and gatherers, shopping makes us feel better. How many of you like to shop? Not much. Some do, some don't. I have a friend, it gives her solace. I am not really a good shopper. But some of us find solace in it. And many of us are anxious. We have become a nation filled with compulsive shoppers. Witness the kinds of things that were taken off the supermarket shelves. And a nation of compulsive hoarders. Both behaviors are in the category of anxiety disorders. The popular reality TV show Hoarder starts with this info bit, quote, boom, boom. Compulsive hoarding is a mental disorder marked by an obsessive need to acquire and keep things, even if those items are worthless, hazardous, or unsanitary. End quote. But isn't that exactly what we're doing as a society? I mean, isn't that exactly what we're doing? Drinking soda, not water? Drinking water out of plastic bottles? Look gently. Look gently, but look hard. Part of me loves the decluttering movement. They're their husband person. And Marie Hondo's catchphrase, does it spark joy, where you take any item and say, oh, you feel its energy, does it spark joy? And if it does, you keep it. And if it doesn't, you get rid of it. But we still have to get to the deeper issues. The issues is still things cannot bring us happiness. And without deeper inquiry, that sparkle of joy is yet another panacea. We're still using things to fill the big black hole that we don't belong. That big black hole that says, I'm not loved. And it is that very consumerism that is destroying our homes and our planet. Joshua Becker of the blog Becoming Minimalist is also the co-founder of the Hope Effect, which is now changing how orphans are cared for. It's an awesome project, by the way. But he writes, quote, in America, We consume twice as many material goods as we used 50 years ago. Now that's per individual. That's not just saying that oh well, there's double us, so of course it's double stuff. No. Over the same period, the size of the average American home has nearly tripled. Today, the average home contains about 300,000 items. Most homes contain more televisions than people. About 25% of two-car garages don't have enough room to park even one car. And still, 1 out of every 11 American households rents storage off-site. The fastest growing segment of the commercial real estate industry over the past 4 decades in many areas is storage. Meanwhile, home organization trying to find a place for all our excessive belongings, the home organization business is an $8 billion industry. And I want that to really sit in. Because now, when they start talking about the costs of Irma, what are the costs that are being talked about? How is that being framed? Where are we going to put our money? All over my neighborhood, the streets are lined with fallen trees and waterlogged, now molding possessions. Carpeting and flooring are being ripped out. Wallboards and sofas, an army of recliners is dripping into gutters, and stuffed animals. Bags of soggy beasts. And all I could think of when I saw them was the boxes and boxes of bears that were sent to us at the Family Assistance Center on 9/11 in New York City. It was 9/11 all over again. Do we really need chocolate made by slave labor? Or underpaid stuffies made by people in factories who don't have enough ventilation so that the actual making of the stuffed animal is destroying their health forever? Do we need these things to soothe us back into our comas? Does shopping really make you feel good? Or is it a drug of addiction that doesn't make people feel really good at all, hurting everyone and everything around us, and only pushing the pain of truth away for a moment? Already, stuffed animals are being shipped to Florida to help us feel better. Mr. Becker continues in the same blog, orphan care is not everyone's passion, but whatever others feel they were put on this planet to do, some of their possessions are either directly or indirectly helping them accomplish it. And while others are holding them back, it makes the best sense to keep what aligns with their goal in life and get rid of the rest. So if you're holding one of your possessions in your hands, ask yourself, does it help me fulfill my purpose? Does it help me craft a lifestyle in which I am able to build relationships and care for others? Or might I be able to use my time, money, and energy in better ways? Clear away the obstacles one by one, then advance towards your goal. This was really hard for me when I read those words. Because of my stuff, I have not been able to help others in this current time of crisis. I have too much stuff, too many unfinished projects. I'm a creative being. I don't hoard so much stuff as possibilities to make stuff. Anybody here a knitter? How many bags of yarn do I really need at one given point? Is the yarn fairy going to go away forever? Yeah, it's fear. It's anxiety. But the truth is we hoard more than things. Things are just the expression of what we hoard. And spiritually, we must move beyond things, the oh so damaging things, into the essential elements of our fearful hearts. We hoard possibilities, hopes, dreams, hurts, schemes. All forms of hoarding are killing our ability to be present with ourselves, our fellow beings, and God. All diversions and addictions that keep us from love, from God, however you name your greater source, from that which is greater than us and dwells within us, all addictions which keep us from growing up, all addictions which keep us from being in beloved community, are like untethered anchors in a hurricane, wreaking more havoc than help. Thich Nhat Hanh writes, "My actions are my only true belongings. I cannot escape the consequence of my actions. My actions are the ground on which I stand." The world is filled with metaphor. And this is what I really want to get. Even our own personal stories are lessons in metaphor. This story, your story now, is worth heeding. Our earth is aflame and awash. She is cracking open, and we're all wounded. The streets of heaven are metaphorically paved with gold because gold has no real value. We must affirm again and again the inherent worth and dignity of each and every one of you, of me. The inherent worth and dignity of all beings. The inherent worth and dignity of all creation. Our salvation is with each other, not separate from each other. It cannot come from things. It must come from within and from love. We are all reflected holy light, and we must stop paving over our earthly paradise with concrete. We must stop setting her afire and filling our lives with stuff. I'd like to start right here and right now. We're going to stand up and we're going to start blessing each other. So everybody just stand up. And yes, we're running long. It's been a week like that. Okay, this is what we're going to say as we just turn around where we are. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we stand, from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together